A dangerous earthquake has struck Japan today in a zone that is a scary one. We'll talk about this. Magnitude 5.9, some have it at 5.8, did strike Japan today, and people really felt it. Alert has been issued. Why? We'll talk about this because this area has produced a monster in 2011, and this will happen again. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And thankfully this time no tsunami alert has been issued. But if you watch this picture here, these are tsunami structures that have been built in this area, Hokkaido. That is a tsunami evacuation structure in Kushiro in Hokkaido in northern Japan. And people that are standing there, they had to go up there on July 30th in 2025 after a tsunami warning was issued because there was a Megathrust earthquake in Kamchatka, magnitude 8.8. It's not so far away if you look at the map. This earthquake here, the Hokkaido Nemuro earthquake and the recent large Kamchatka earthquakes that still keep happening. We still have aftershocks in the high magnitudes. I'm reporting about this. If you haven't heard about this, subscribe to my channel and check out my videos. Go to my start page on videos and on recent or in the search bar Kamchatka. So this is the Kuril Kamchatka trench, and Kamchatka has triggered volcanoes that are on the island. This Megathrust earthquake. They are along the same continuous plate boundary that we call the Kuril Kamchatka trench. So is there something brewing? Because that trench stretches about 1,500 miles, that's roughly 2,000 kilometers from offshore Hokkaido in Japan, all the way north to the Kamchatka Peninsula in Russia. It's the exact same subduction zone interface. And if we look at the Google Earth pictures, you can see this massive plate boundary, and the subduction zones are the dangerous ones. And they're mostly along the Pacific Ring of Fire, this horseshoe, how can we say, formed fire ring with most of the world's active volcanoes and the most devastating earthquakes. So geologically, they're on one enormous, gigantic geologic fault zone, one connected megathrust. This is how it's called. That's why we say Megathrust earthquakes. Does that ring a bell? Of course, they're separated, Kamchatka and Japan, by several hundreds of miles. We've had major earthquakes in Kamchatka, magnitude 7.5 in April 2024. Then we had 7.3 in early 2025. We had that Megathrust earthquake, magnitude 8.8. So the subduction interface can experience stress redistribution. So the stress doesn't instantly travel like a tsunami wave, but it changes the pressure field along the trench system. I mean, no surprise, right? Let's imagine that plate boundary like a long zipper. When one section ruptures, it can slightly tighten or loosen the neighboring sections. If you have a zipper that's broken and in the middle of the zipper it gets damaged and it opens up, it puts pressure on the outsides of these zipper ends, right? So that it breaks further. And Hokkaido lies just southwest of these ruptures. And that means that this Nemuro segment may now be under slightly or even more increased pressure, especially after the northern sections have released their pressure. And this could explain why the Nemuro-Kuril region has shown renewed seismic activity in recent months. And guys, this pattern isn't new, and that's why we should be concerned, because we have precedent. Historically, large Kamchatka earthquakes have often been followed by heightened activity further south. 1952 Kamchatka magnitude 9.0 megathrust earthquake, followed by increased seismic activity around Urup and Iturup Islands in the central Kurils. We had 1973 Nemuro Oki, magnitude 7.4, came roughly 20 years after the Great Kamchatka event as stress has migrated down the arc. So 20 years after, right? So that means it doesn't have to happen tomorrow. But if we see more of these larger events, that could be an indicator. We had in 2006 on the Kuril Island a magnitude 8.3. And that was followed by smaller quakes closer to Hokkaido within the next year. And this is just that time frame, right? Sometimes that stress is released over years, but sometimes faster. So Japan has issued a 1-week alert to expect something bigger, a megathrust earthquake maybe. So that earthquake here, that 5.8, 5.9 struck off eastern Hokkaido in northern Japan. That was early Saturday. Japan Meteorological Agency has said the quake occurred southeast of the Nemuro Peninsula at a depth of 25 miles in the morning at 1:40 a.m. local time. And it has registered, Japan has their own scale of how intense an earthquake is, and it has registered on the lower 5 on Japan's seismic activity index. The highest is 7. Fire Disaster Management Agency has issued an emergency alert at the time of the quake, predicting strong shaking in the area. The government has established a liaison office at the Prime Minister's office to coordinate their response. So Hokkaido is beautiful. It's known for its rugged natural beauty, cold winters, and thriving agricultural and seafood industries. The island covers roughly 32,000 square miles, and it's home densely populated to about 5 million people. So these earthquakes really matter in terms of how big the effect and the destruction could be. Of course, it's far less densely populated than the other main islands of Japan. But we know, for example, Sapporo, that's Hokkaido's capital, it's famous for its annual snow festival, and it has hosted the 1972 Winter Olympics. It's located roughly 510 miles north of Tokyo. But Hokkaido, Japan's northernmost island, is one of the country's most seismically active regions due to its close proximity to the boundary between the Pacific and North American tectonic plates, that subduction zone that we've been talking about. So earthquakes occur frequently around the island, particularly off its eastern and southern coasts, where the Pacific plate is subducting beneath the North American plate in the Kuril Trench. And that's one of the most active seismic areas in the whole world, by the way. And the most powerful earthquake ever recorded in northern Japan did strike in 2011, March 11th, when a magnitude 9.1 trembler hit off the east coast of Tohoku, the famous Tohoku earthquake. I have just released a video a few days ago about that. And the quake, centered about 43 miles east of the Miyagi prefecture, has unleashed a massive tsunami with waves more than 130 feet high. We all remember these tragic images. Entire towns were wiped out and more than 18,000 people were lost or went missing as the water was surging inland. It has devastated coastal communities, but also infrastructure across northeastern Japan, the Fukushima power plant, for example. The disaster has triggered that catastrophic failure that had led to meltdowns of 3 reactors and, unfortunately, the release of radioactive material in what became the world's worst nuclear crisis since Chernobyl. The quake, I reported about this just a few days ago, has also shifted the Earth's axis slightly and has shortened the length of the day, and therefore it remains Japan's most destructive and most intense natural disaster in modern history. Thankfully, it has prompted sweeping reforms in disaster preparedness, tsunami defenses, and nuclear safety standards that continue to shape Japan's policies until today. And hopefully they will upgrade and upgrade and upgrade. So that was an update. We have to keep this on our watch list. I hope you liked it. But guys, watch what's going on at Kamchatka. Two more studies that prove that scientists have been completely wrong in their estimates of how dangerous this volcano is, how close the magma is to the surface, and what could happen, guys. They realized the data that they have everything based on were wrong because the volcano was faking these data. They have now learned that. You have to watch this video if you're interested in what's going on at the supervolcano in Italy, in Naples, with more than 6 million people, because that's a volcano that can affect the whole world. So watch it here in the end screen. If you want to know whether the aliens are coming or not, everything you need to know about the interstellar object 3A Atlas. Hype this video, subscribe, become a member, buy me a coffee. Link is in the description to keep me going. And I see you in a second if you click here. Bye-bye.